Byron would start the show, because this isn't the show. But Byron is dawdling, says Kirsten McSmythe from the Final Control. Now, the lions were around here. We're going to attempt to find them. Herbert is over there. He's looking. I can see his car. Aubrey is in the general vicinity, also looking. They're talking upon the radio. Now, of course, for those of you who are watching the pre-show, it's going to be slightly astounding when suddenly I say, "Oh, good afternoon and welcome to the main show," which, of course, will seem very ridiculous if I have to start the show. But anyway, that is just the way it shall go. Now, the lions are in the drainage line. Well, I can't tell you that now, of course. Orbs, any luck there? I'm just going to drive south down Twin Dams for a little while in case they're here.
Yeah, nothing so far, James. Nothing here.
Aubrey is very demotivated. Okay, copy. We'll head south down Twin Dams and see what we can come up with. Right, there is 1 minute left of the pre-show show, everybody. Your special 5-minute look into what happens before a drive. Normally, of course, the cameraman and I would be at loggerheads, we'd be punching each other. Then as soon as we went live, you would be under the impression that we were good friends. Right, 30 seconds left. There's a giraffe over there. How fantastic. What a pity we won't be able to start the show with him. Okay, everybody, goodbye. I will see you in 10, well, a little bit later, where I shall pretend I haven't seen you yet.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a cloudy afternoon, everyone, here on Safari Live, and welcome. You are live on Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Safari Live. My name's Byron, and on camera this afternoon is Brian with the thumb, and we have James and Dave on the other vehicle this afternoon, so you'll see them shortly. It's a beautiful day. It's been very cool and very cloudy. We haven't had any rain. We had a little bit this morning, but not too much today. It's about 22 degrees, about 78 degrees Fahrenheit, 22 degrees Celsius, which is very nice and cool. Not as hot as what we're used to. So we are in search of predators this afternoon. We're going to try and look for some leopard. I actually just heard a bushbuck alarm calling not far from here, so I'd like to head down into that area and just have a look and see what we find. Maybe there's something walking around. We had a very exciting morning this morning. We had the lions on a buffalo kill. They had finished it from yesterday or from last night, and then they wandered through and they had another buffalo which they were feeding on, which was very, very interesting. We had the whole Unkuhuma pride with a Birmingham male that was with them, and all the cubs were very playful. It was really, really a great morning. Don't forget, everyone, we are live from the Greater Kruger National Park in an area known as the Sabi Sands, and we are currently on Djuma Game Reserve. You can send us your questions through Twitter at #SafariLive. Otherwise, email us questions at wildearth.tv, and we'll gladly answer your questions or get your comments. It's always great hearing from our viewers. Just trying to see now, having a good look around here to see where that bushbuck or nyala, it sounded like a bushbuck. Maybe we're lucky and it saw a predator moving through here. There were lions around this area this morning, so I wonder if it was perhaps a lion that it saw or if it was something else. Let's have a look. There's some nyala off to my right. Hang on a second, let me show you. Just through there, can you see them? Just in the thicket, a big male nyala. Now, they seem to be feeding. There are actually quite a few of them. Wow, this is interesting. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like 5 nyala bulls. There may even be more around here. So this is a bachelor herd. Now, I wonder if it was one of them that gave that alarm call. It could very well have been, but they seem very relaxed at the moment, browsing away in the thicket. Trying to listen out if I don't hear anything else, but it seems very quiet at the moment. No more alarm calls. Just going to roll forward a little bit. I might get you a better view of these nyala. Let me know. How's that, Brian? There we go, it's a bit better. Look at these beautiful big males. You can see that one in the middle and then one off to the back left. But look at these horns. This is an impressive set of horns on this bull. See that white tip? It's a good sign of age. That's usually a good sign of age. It's probably an older bull, fully mature, and browsing very, very happily around here. Okay, so we're going to continue and see if we can't find any tracks of predators, lions or leopard, anything like that. While I do that, let's head over to James so he can say hello to you this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sort of again, for those of you who didn't watch the pre-show. My name is James Hendry. On camera there's David. That's David's thumb. You saw it was very swiftly put into the line of the lens. Now, we've come into this area to try and find the Nkahuma Pride. They were knocking about here sometime this morning, but they seem to have disappeared. Herbert is on foot trying to track them. Aubrey is around looking for them. There's a grey go-away bird going quack, quack, over there, which sometimes they do if they've seen a predator, but I don't think they've seen a predator now. No, they still haven't found them. Anyway, I think they're in this drainage system here somewhere, so hopefully during the course of the afternoon we'll find them. Just to give you an idea, off to the left of where we are now, so the left of your screen, there's a road that runs up, and it runs almost parallel with the Mlwamati drainage, which is the main sort of dry riverbed that runs through the middle of Djuma, which is where we are now. And then this road runs parallel for a little while, and then it turns away from the drainage line. So there's a fairly thick piece of block in front of us there that I think they're in. And so it could be a little bit difficult, but we're going to do our very best during the course of the next 3 hours or so to find them. And we'll see what else we can find as the afternoon progresses. It's a glorious cloudy day, 26 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 78 degrees. No, that's not 26 Fahrenheit. I wouldn't be dressed in shirt sleeves if it was. It is 26 degrees Celsius and 78 Fahrenheit, which makes for a very pleasant temperature indeed. And, of course, the cloud gave us a little bit of rain this morning. Not enough, but some. Good. Right, we are as live as Byron, although you know, the liveliness of Byron. I'm not sure what happened to his opening today, so do talk to us, #Safari Live, or questions at wildearth.tv, and we would love to hear from you. Let's talk about anything you'd like to. Well, not anything you'd like to. Anything to do with the wilderness, Africa, South Africa, safaris, that sort of thing. I don't really wish to talk about soap operas. What else don't I want to talk about? Many things. Without further ado, let us go back to Byron so that he can make up for his beginning with a giraffe.
We do have an old male giraffe here. You can see it is very old, judging by all that calcification around the skull. Can you see those thick knobs? There we go. Look at that. Isn't that interesting? And the older these giraffes get, the more prominent those knobs become. And you can see the horns or the ossicles, but even the ears. Look at that very, very old male. Ears are worn completely bald on top. So this is a really old male, but he's got a beautiful color. He's actually quite dark. And if you have a look at that pattern, look at that, very, very dark. And the theory is that the older giraffe do tend to become darker, the older males. And you can see there, he's really, really old. And he's got this very reddish brown color, almost like an earthy red. Soil that's rich in iron actually comes out that reddish color, and it's got very similar color to that, but the patches are very dark, very black. It's a beautiful coloration. It's just browsing happily on those leaves. There was another one that I saw off to the left, but I can't see it at the moment. It was a little bit deeper into the bush, so there's at least two males we can see. But we've spoken about it before. With the giraffe being so tall, they can keep an eye on each other from a distance, and they can spot one another. So occasionally you may see giraffe in a group, but they spread out over a fairly large area, but obviously with them being so tall, they can still spot one another. Look at that tongue, everyone, as they stick it out. Very, very long tongue. Now, a big male like that, his tongue is probably around 40 to 45 centimeters long, which is incredible. And they'll use that tongue to strip the leaves off of the branches. Look at that. Wonderful. Jordan, good afternoon to you, and I understand you are a new viewer, so welcome on Safari Live. Jordan wants to know, why do the giraffe have horns? So Jordan, those horns, or what are also known as ossicles, it's actually part of the skull. That's bone that we can see there. And the horns are used, especially with the males, they are used for fighting. So the giraffe, when they fight, they do something known as necking, where they stand basically head to tail, so facing opposite directions, right next to one another, and they swing their necks around and they hit each other with those very hard horns, that bony structure on top of the head, and that can cause some serious damage. So with the males, it's mainly for fighting. Females also have them, and they may use them to protect themselves to an extent, but they don't use them as much as the males do. So the main reason would be for fighting. Oh, there's an oxpecker, everyone. Oh, look at that. That is a red-billed oxpecker. And it's picking off the ticks and the fleas that sit on the giraffe. Now, oxpeckers play a vital role in removing ticks off a lot of the animals in this environment. And the reason they do this is the oxpeckers actually they enjoy the blood. That's what they're after. They feed on the blood. So those ticks are full of blood from sitting on the animals, and the oxpeckers will pick them off and feed on them. But what often happens too is you may get these oxpeckers sitting on animals that have got wounds, and they will pick at the wound to keep it open because they drink the blood. And that can often cause the wound to grow and get a bit larger, which is not ideal. So sometimes they can do a little bit of harm to the animals, but generally they do good, and they pick off the ticks. Christy has asked, why do we call those horns on the giraffe's head ossicles and not ossicones? Christy, I do not know. I really don't know. That's just the name that's been given to them, ossicles. I don't know where the name comes from, to be honest. All I know is it is a bone structure, and it's interesting when they're born, those horns are actually flat against the head, and as they're born they then stand up, and as they grow and they get older, that calcification around the head hardens, and those horns become a lot more solid, and they really get fixed to the top of the skull. As James mentioned, I struggled a little bit with the opening. I don't know what happened there. Brian and I had a good chuckle about that. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But James has got some bovine that he'd like to show you, so let's head over to him.
That is the most hilarious thing I've heard all day long, everybody. What on earth is an ossicle? It sounds like some sort of frozen piece of bone sugary frozen bone that one might consume on a warm afternoon, such as the one we're experiencing now. Anyway, there are some buffalo. They do not have ossicles on them. They don't have icicles on them. They don't have popsicles on them. They've got horns, which are quite similar to ossicles in many ways. I mean, ossicones, of course. Except, you know what, I've actually forgotten what the difference is, but I think the difference is that the ossicones of a giraffe, while they grow out of the skull, they are born with them, and buffalo are not born with their horns. And they're also born unfused to the skull. And in the first few days of life, they stand up on end, and the cartilage that joins them to the skull then hardens. It ossifies into the bone that then eventually becomes the giraffe's horn or ossicone. Here, I think they grow entirely from the base, from a bud in the skull. And that is the difference there, I think. And it's not a very attractive sort of hairdo she's got there, is it, David? She's really... you're really not painting her in a flattering light. I mean, she looks okay like that. Go back to that image you had there. Yeah, no, I mean, that's just doesn't do her justice, I feel. That sort of scraggly hair on top, no hair on the face, which I suppose if you're a human being is a good thing. But if you're a buffalo, you want to have a good covering of hair. Yeah, and she's dribbling. No, I think we should move on from her. Buffalo do dribble, everybody, and they dribble for a very good reason. They dribble because they, of course, have to chew and chew and chew, and that chewing produces, or necessarily produces, a huge amount of saliva, which in turn necessitates their drinking, often twice a day, especially in winter. Now, the lions we have obviously not come across, and if Taylor was sitting where I am now, I've no doubt a lion would leap from behind a bush and jump onto one of these buffalo, but I don't have quite that luck. And so what we're going to do, we think the lions are somewhere behind us there. Herbert is following up there. We'll drive in and around there. Would not surprise me to know that the lions had heard these chaps moving in here. It's a very small herd of buffalo, probably about 50 or so, but they will let out the odd belch and that sort of thing. We know that those Nkuhumas have been massively successful over the last little while catching buffalo, so it wouldn't surprise me if the reason that they've moved is that they heard these guys here and are perhaps stalking from the undergrowth as we speak. While we're looking at the buffalo, there's also a zebra, David. Oops, the buffalo to the side of us got a little bit of a fright. And if I was that zebra, I wouldn't be hanging around with buffalo when the Nkuhuma pride are around. There are 3 or 4 of them, and they're all in this area because it seems to be it's a ridge crest, which might not look like a ridge crest, but it is, and that means, of course, that there's very well-drained soil, and the grass, when it's rained, will be particularly good, and so that's why they're all up here, enjoying the flush of green that's come as a result of our summer rains. And I just love the days like this, when there is a bit of cloud, the cuckoo's still calling, red-chested cuckoo in the background, and as always, an air of expectancy of perhaps a little bit more rain. It's quite close, so it's quite humid. Do you use that term where you're from, everybody? The term close, I quite like it to describe a sort of humid atmosphere where it feels like the air is actually touching you. It's quite close today. Right, so let's move on from these beefies. We're going to turn around 180 degrees. Hello, Alice. You're in Ohio as opposed to Wonderland. I'm not sure why I made that joke. Alice, you're saying are oxpeckers, and you've correctly pointed out that they drink blood. Are they the only birds that drink blood? Alice, not really. I mean, I think they're probably the only birds that specialize in it. A vulture or an eagle or any bird like that will drink blood if they can get it, but they're not adapted to doing it. So, they will drink and eat the blood of their prey. But I think an oxpecker is probably the only one that takes blood from a tick. I'm just trying to think of any others that there might be. No, I think they probably are the only kind of specialist, what would we call it, hemivore. I suppose that would be something that drinks blood, a hemivore. But there are lots of others that would get blood in their, in their meal. All the birds of prey would. Right, Herbie's checking down there along what we call the Gowrie cut line. We're going to go up here, which is Hyena Road. There's a giraffe there with some ossicles, and there's a zebra with some strippies, and a buffalo with some hones, and also on it 2 oxpeckers which have flown away. She's not much better looking than the last one we saw, is she? There. Beautiful. Now, much younger, I think, than the giraffe you saw with Byron. And I think we saw the giraffe that you saw with Byron on Twin Dams. And you can see he's younger. His skin is in better condition. His ossicles aren't quite as robust. Let's move up a little bit here. Really is a lot of animal life on this ridge crest, which is marvelous. There's the zebra, which of course we say zebra in this country. Adam, you're wondering about a giraffe's tongue and whether it stops growing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure it stops growing when the giraffe stops growing. But that said, because of what it eats, because it must rub its tongue over thorns and it takes quite a lot of wear and tear. I suppose a little bit like teeth of the herbivores that keep growing all the time. It's constantly replacing, I think, the epithelium or the outer layer of the tongue. And so from that point of view, it probably doesn't stop growing, but I don't think it get any longer. I certainly haven't seen very old giraffes with noticeably longer tongues. Gosh, there really is a lot going on here. There's some more buffalo up ahead. So those lions are probably not too far from this vicinity. Now the reason they're a buffalo, of course, is that there are these pans all the way along here. So there's the good grazing on the ridge crest, and as you come off the ridge crest to the seep lines, which is what we're on now, there are these pans of water which the buffalo will drink from and lie in. Look at that lovely green algae there, David. Looks like a very pleasant pea soup. Do you like pea soup, David? Doesn't smell like pea soup, does it? No. You might also be able to hear some whistling noises. And that's those nomadic wattled starlings. Hello, Finn. You're just 8 years old. How good to hear from you. Thank you for sending us a question, Finn. Finn, you want to know why it is that buffalo lose their hair? You know, probably for two reasons. The first is those oxpeckers, and you would have seen under that buffalo's eyes, she had no hair at all, and she had sort of hard white skin. That's because the oxpeckers pick the ticks off in that area. That's where ticks go, because ticks will go anywhere where there's moisture, and you know that even on your eyes there's quite a lot of moisture around them. So a tick will go towards them on a buffalo, and then the oxpeckers will take the ticks off, and that will pull the hair out. And then they also rub their heads a lot on each other, and they rub them in bushes. They get itchy, and so they rub their heads against wood and through thorns, and so that takes the hair out as well. And that's why they get a little bit bald as they get older, but like a few others I know of. Let's carry on down the road here. So this is probably part of the same buffalo herd. And the same buffalo herd that is kind of split up. We'll just have a very close-up view of a buffalo cow. Oh no, well that's a bull. Oh, he looks to have had something of a stroke. It's very odd. Let me just look there. No, he hadn't had a stroke. He's just got a swollen lip. Something's not quite right there, is it? I wonder if he hasn't broken his nose at some stage. That is fascinating. All right, Byron has done a little bit of research, everybody. So from this rather unsymmetrical or asymmetrical buffalo bull, we're going to head across to Byron Sarah and find out the difference between an ossicle, a popsicle, an icicle, and an ossicone.
I do apologize, everyone. The horns on top of giraffe are ossicones. I don't know why. I said ossicles. I really don't. Something's clearly happened to me this afternoon. Perhaps it's a cloudy weather, and I'm sorry. So there are ossicones on top of the giraffe's head, and I do believe that James is going to shout at me this evening, so I'm not looking forward to that. Perhaps I should just start again. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Byron. We've got Brian on camera and the thumb, and we are on Safari Live, and we're looking for animals to show you. I will do better. From now on, I promise I'll do better this afternoon. I'm actually just driving along the Gowrie cut line at the moment, and the reason I'm doing that is to see if we've got any predators that have possibly crossed over onto our side during the course of the day. And because it has been a lot cooler, chances of animals like leopard and lion moving around during the day are a lot higher. So that's what I'm hoping for. And also, you never know, we might find leopards hunt in weather like this. They do enjoy it. When it's cooler and a little bit windy, they're able to hide and stalk, and they are a lot more active than people actually realize. So you never know, it could happen. I'm hoping, here we go, there's some impala off to our right, and an inyala. It's always wonderful seeing all these antelope around. There's 2 Nyala, and then a herd of impala around here. So both these species would be ideal prey for leopards. I have not yet seen a big male leopard since on this stint that I've been with Safari Live, and I've been here now, 12 days or so. I mean, we found Karula the other morning with her 2 cubs, which was wonderful, and Tingana has been close to us, but just on the other side of the boundary, on our eastern boundary. I know Taylor got to see him the other day once or twice, which was really lucky, but I have not yet seen a big male leopard since I have been here, so that would be wonderful to find. See, this cut line that we are now is called cheetah cut line, and it's usually quite productive for animals. And Kat from Tampa would like to see some hyena, and Kat, so would I, but for some reason, and I heard from the other guides too, that they have not seen hyena for ages. But it's interesting, I've seen hyena tracks a lot or driving around, but just no sign of the hyena. So they're probably more active at night, moving around, and then most likely moving off of Djuma. And my thinking is that it's possibly because of the high predator density at the moment, or basically because of all the lions. There's a lot of lion activity around, and these Birmingham males are around. Hyena don't like that, and even though the hyena generally scavenge off lions at times, I think with the size of the pride and because of the cubs, the females are probably a bit more aggressive, and the males around, the hyena would have no chance, and if they got caught by these lions, the lions would kill them. So I think that's possibly why we haven't seen many hyena. But it would be wonderful. You never know. Kat, we tend to bump into things on a regular basis, so we could bump into a hyena on drive this afternoon or this evening. See something ahead crossing the road. Not sure if it's buffalo. It's quite far up ahead. Let's go have a look. While I go investigate if these are buffalo, James is sitting with buffalo at the moment, so head over to him.
Well, that doesn't look like a buffalo to me. Does it look like a buffalo to you, David? I don't know. Byron is really falling apart today. He's really lost his mind. Anyway, that is not a buffalo. It is a waterbuck. And on its bottom, of course, the distinctive white ring. Good. Now, that is, as I've told you before, the only, at least the one of, there's a subspecies of waterbuck that lives up in the Mara called the Defassa waterbuck that doesn't have that, of course. And we saw that up there, which was very nice. Now, there are 2 bulls here, and they're feeding on what we call the ecotone. Now, the best way for me to describe the ecotone for you would be to, Dave, if you see the big marula tree on the ridge crest?
Yep.
Right, so that is the ridge crest, everybody. That big tree through, around the side there is a marula tree. That is indicative of the ridge crest. And then as you come towards us, there we go, we get Combretum, the green trees, and then we're into this position here. If we pan around to where those beefaloes are, there, they are standing on the seep line. Now, in between the seep line and the ridge crest is what we call an ecotone, and it's an area where 2 vegetation types meet, and that is where waterbuck like to live. often found on the ecotones, and I think it's quite possibly one of the reasons that we see waterbuck so much here and very seldom around water. I think that there are quite a few sort of gentle undulations in the topography here, which means that there are lots of different ecotones, and that means that it's ideal habitat for waterbuck, bar the water, of course. Because there are, to my mind, an unusual number of waterbuck here, especially given the lack of very large water bodies. And indeed, during the drought, their numbers seemed to increase here rather than decrease. Right, let's move on from here. Another very small herd of buffalo of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See if you can count them as we drive slowly past everybody. I mean, there are probably 10 or 11 animals there. That's a tiny little herd. Probably all part of a much larger herd, but lurking about like they are in such a small herd is just inviting attack. Now, I was chatting to Steph today. I was chatting to Steph today, and he was saying how the buffalo are, well, I mean, we told you about Taylor's experience where that buffalo chased her into the tent the other day. Steph's had a couple of experiences on foot where he hasn't been chased, but the buffalo are just seemingly on edge. Well, I mean, it's obvious why they're on edge. They're being smashed by the lions. And they're being smashed by the lions because they're weak. They're weak. They've split out of their big herds because of the drought. They're into these little groups. They're weakened by the lack of food. And I just think that they're being extremely easy to pick off. In fact, the 2 lionesses and those 8 cubs and 1 fairly useless male managed to take down a little calf yesterday. I think is fascinating. Where was the rest of the herd? Normally a big herd like that would protect a little calf, especially in the middle of the day. Buffalo don't normally get panicked in the middle of the day. So it's all rather interesting. Just still listening to the radio to see if anyone's found tracks of,
thank you very much.
Found tracks of the lions. That was very loud, David. Sorry about that. And we will obviously sort out these radios so that they are silent once more. Ooh. Just onto that hornbill there. It's got a little thing in its mouth, a tiny little insect, which it's now devoured. I thought it might be taking it to its wife, who I'm sure was holed up in a tree hole. Look at his eyelashes. Now, that's looking for... This is one of the trees, actually, that produced a huge number of invertebrates last year around about this time. It's a peltiforum tree, or a weeping wattle, and I think he's just scouring the branches for signs of insects, perhaps cicadas. I can hear a whole group of cicadas, or cicada, if you're living in North America. I can hear them up north of us, from where we are now, making their lovely summer sound. And I'm sure that's the kind of thing that he's looking for. And those eyes are sharp. They're much sharper than ours. They'll be able to pick out details, the likes of which you and I would never be able to see. And just again, the dexterity and agility of that bird to be able to move around, hop from branch to branch, I think is always amazing. Can you imagine sitting in a tree and jumping from branch to branch? And remember, they can't open their wings there. Righty, very nice, David. Let us continue. That is the southern yellow-billed hornbill, if you're wondering. And I do think that Byron should try and do an impression of the southern yellow-billed hornbill. I'd pay quite a lot of money to see that. How to throw your mate under the bus, 101. He says apparently he's shaking his head. I don't think he's going to do it. You'll have to ask him, everyone. Right, no tracks of the lions as far as I can see. Let's go up this way. and see if they haven't popped out onto the Beefles or cut line. That's the Beefles or cut line, which is our northern boundary. And obviously, if you are a new viewer, it's not a boundary that we're not, that the animals aren't allowed to cross. We can't go north or south of our traversing area, but the animals are free to come and go as they please. Look at the kudu there. She's using that termite mound as a vantage point. Isn't that cool? See that, everyone? Hello, Jenna. You're in Cape Town. It's very nice to hear from South Africa, although Cape Town's sometimes considered not part of South Africa, but that's by Cape Townians. Jenna, you're wondering if I've ever been sitting with a herbivore and then been shocked by a predator leaping out. I think probably once or twice. I can't think of an exact incident, but my memory tells me that I have seen that. I've certainly been watching them and then seen predators stalking them. And we had an incident the other day with Karula, and we were watching some, I think it was Impala and Nyala, drinking at the Djuma Pan. And I was kind of scanning the bush either side, and way across the dam I spied the spots through a little gap in the bush. And there she was, just looking out over the dam, trying to see if she couldn't perhaps find something small enough for her to get. I actually think we were watching buffalo drinking, so they were too big for her to go for. And she waited very patiently there till they'd moved off, and then she slunk out, and nobody saw her. It was wonderful to see. But yes, they could be anywhere around here, and certainly these Nkuhumas who have been hunting in the day, they've been hunting hugely during the day. They could be anywhere around here. I suspect that's why that kudu is sitting on the top of that mound, standing guard. Okay. Great news, everyone. Byron has found another ossicle-topped animal.
James, stop it. So in the spirit of starting again, I found giraffes with ossicones on their head. And there's a beautiful example there of this. Looks like a male, that one at the back, but look how dark he is compared to that female. This is a female just off to the right. And now you can see color variation. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? How dark that male is compared to that female. Look at that. As I was saying, the genetically, some giraffe are just darker than others, but the theory is also that the older the giraffe get, they tend to get a lot darker, and especially the males. The older males do turn a bit darker, their coloration. Okay, I'm hiding in the trees there. So what we're going to do is we're going to head towards Buffelshoek Dam to see if we got any movement of animals around there. I'd love to find some elephant this afternoon. That would also be wonderful. And I got an update from some of the other guides in the area. And it sounds like Tingana, that big male leopard, is on the property to our east on Torchwood. And unfortunately we can't go there, but he has been around there for the last few days. He's had a kill. I think he killed a large impala. So that leopard will stay in that area until he's finished it. And then it sounds like Karula and her two cubs crossed south. I think Taylor saw their tracks this morning crossing south over our boundary, which is sad, but very fortunate that we did get to see them. It was exciting for me because I hadn't seen them for quite some time, so it was nice to see the cubs and see how big they are. Billy wants to know, do these giraffe have any feeling in their mouths? Billy, they do, but their lips and their tongues are very, very thick, almost rubber-like, their tongue. And the thorns do not affect them. You can see they're feeding on those acacia trees with those very, very sharp thorns. And their thick lips and tongue protect them against the thorns, and they're able to feed on all those leaves. And the reason they like the acacia trees is because the nutrients in the acacia leaves are very, very high. And there's a lot of good food there for them, and the leaves taste very good. That is why they have the thorns, and that's to try and protect them. But as you can see, it doesn't really affect the giraffe at all. I mean, wrapping its tongue right around those branches and stripping the leaves off really is incredible if you see how sharp those thorns are. Sun's peeking through some of the clouds as it's starting to drop, but it's still very, very cloudy. But look at that. See the sun just peeking through there. It's warming things up a little bit. It was much cooler earlier, but aren't those clouds beautiful? Lovely, lovely scene at the moment around us. We're going to continue towards Buffelshoek Dam and see what we can find around there. Anyway, it was nice to see the giraffe and their ossicones. Actually, we are hoping to have a rainy year ahead. It's been an incredibly dry year in southern Africa. The rainfall has been a lot less than it usually is, and that's why we've had such a bad drought. So we are hoping that we get some more rainfall, or a lot of rainfall for the next summer season. That's when we get our rainfall. So from now up until about February, March, hopefully we get a lot of rain. And here's another interesting antelope to show you. Have a look at this, everyone. Off to our right, we've got a wildebeest. And he seems to be by himself, which is not unusual, and I'll tell you why. That this is probably a territorial male. So what he has done is set up a territory in this area, and he'll most likely have a little rubbing patch where he rubs in the sand, and a rubbing post that he'll go and rub the sand off of himself and get rid of ticks and that against a tree somewhere. But they do like to roll around in an area that is very sandy, and it's to protect their skin and get rid of ticks and fleas. And then that will basically mark his territory, and what he'll do is he will defend this against other males until a group of females walk past, and he will then try and get them to stay in his territory so that he may mate with them. And often you'll find these dominant male wildebeest hanging around with impala and occasionally zebra, and the reason for that is just for safety, so that there are a few more eyes around. Keeping a lookout for any predators or any danger. But he looks like he's by himself at the moment. And speaking of zebra, James has got, perhaps he is the lone wildebeest with those zebra.
Well, there are some zebra again, everybody.
They've got animals running around all over the place, sounds like kudu and impala.
I'm just listening to the radio, everyone.
So it's possibly by wild dogs in the on the Little Gowrie driveway area. So I don't know if you guys want to check along Gowrie Main.
Copy, Lex. Yeah, I think definitely one of us will head down there. I'll head down there now. Thanks very much. Did you hear about that, everybody? It sounds like there could well be wild dogs on the southern boundary. I think that for now, while we've got Herbie looking for the lions here, I think we should head down there, because I think Byron's going to Buffelshoek Dam to see what's there. If, of course, we do come across the dogs, we'll pull Byron into the sighting to help us. Whoops. So let's head down there quite quickly. And you heard, of course, that the dogs haven't been found, but there are lots and lots of animals running around and alarm calling and basically panicking all over the place. So we're hopefully going to find some wild dogs. In the meantime, we'll take a look at the sort of sky as we drive along. There we are. Give you some sort of entertainment other than just listening to me. There we are. God. And just over my head there is I think probably Mrs. Wahlberg. I'm just going to keep an eye. Sorry, that was a pathetic piece of presenting. You couldn't actually see the bird, so that was bad of my part. I just was distracted quickly by the thought of looking at the ground, because this is where we thought the lions might have come. But it doesn't look like they have. So we're going to drive quite quickly now. Take out your dentures. Strap yourselves in. If you are having a drink, well, I'd suggest you finish half of it while we go. Lean into the corners. There is a great bevy of vultures flying off. They were obviously here feeding on the remains of the lion kill that was around here. This is where they killed their buffalo yesterday. That is gorgeous light. That really is quite spectacular. Isn't that lovely? White-backed vultures. Very nice, David. That's enough. Let's carry on. Just on the off chance that we can see some doggies. Mashlolwa. The term that the guides use around here for wild dog is madash, which again is one of those strange words that's come into parlance that has no noticeable origin. The Shangaan word for wild dog is masholwa. Pop across the damn wall. We'll have a quick look at more vultures. That's very ominous, isn't it, David? Don't they look ominous on the dead tree? Oh, if I'd seen them yesterday on Halloween, we'd been so terrified. Right, that's enough of that. Carry on. Try and start the car. There we go. There's a hippo. I haven't seen the hippo in this particular piece of water for some time. Anyway, hello. Is the dam cam working? Okay. You have seen them there before, apparently. I haven't seen them for some time. Oh, beautiful smell. You know what it is? Just quickly, Dave, sorry. All the way from there, which is probably about 50 meters away, there's a tree with yellow flowers on it. It's a gardenia tree. And the smell is delicious. It's sweet, fragrant, sort of a little bit like a rose mixed with a jasmine, I suppose. Very nice. Then there's, of course, the air touched with the smell of rotting flesh, which, given the number of buffalo that the lions have killed around here, is not surprising. Right. I think those are the nyala over there that Byron showed you at the very beginning of the show, so we won't stop for them. I'm just going to get an update quickly from Abel. Okay, no. There's no update. Impala running all over the place. We're nowhere near the southern boundary just yet, so they're not running around because they're worried about the wild doggies. Right. So please do excuse the speed if you've just joined us. We are trying desperately to get to the southern boundary because we've heard possible reports of wild dogs heading this way. Wild dogs, of course, my favorite animal out here. And I know many of you will be very excited to see some wild dogs. David, will you be excited to see wild dogs? Yes, I thought you might. Yes. Can't drive too fast in Jigger because we'll throw David off the back. And because he's so quiet, we won't notice him go. We'll suddenly arrive at the sighting, and I'll turn round and he won't be there anymore, and I'll have to film. And then it'll be blurry safaris. Hold on, David.
We're here on Central Road between Junction.
I once was driving with David. I'm sure many of you were probably on the sighting, and I can see him laughing now because he's remembering. And I have told you the story, but we were chasing the lions across quarantine clearings. They were chasing some wildebeest, and I thought I was doing the most spectacular presenting job in the world. I was driving after them. I'd positioned them perfectly next to the vehicle, and then we had to cross one of the roads, and we hit the bump, and it was a little bit of a bump, but I didn't turn around. I just carried on. The lion was running next to us, and then I looked down at my monitor and I saw the sky, which is of course what you were seeing. And that David, I turned around, he was lying on the back of the car with his legs in the air like this because I'd lost him. I'd bounced him clean out of his seat, and he was lying with his legs in the air, and of course all you were seeing were the clouds leaping about. Yes, we got some, good airtime. And of course what we discovered from that is that chasing animals while they're on the run and trying to film them is often more a seasickness event than it is an actually entertaining event. Right, we'll go right down to the southern boundary and then turn to the west. Word on the wire is that Karula has killed something else, unfortunately, again to the south. So we won't be seeing her today. We did get to spend a full 3 hours with her yesterday afternoon, which was just tremendous. And I was struck again by, well, struck for the first time by how much bigger little Hosanna, the male, is. Excuse me. How much bigger the male is than the female. And they are now, if I'm not mistaken, 9 months old tomorrow. So the great queen has done very well to get to this point with all of them. And get out of the way, Impada. I'm sorry, I do appreciate you, but we want to go and see if there's some... There's a giraffe, female, small ossicles on the female. There is so much animal life around here at the moment, it's wonderful. There's another female giraffe with some ossicles. Sorry, David. I am giving you a bit of a hack. Hello, Donovan. That's very nice to know that when you are big, I will still have an opportunity to be employed, which is, of course, always a worry for a safari guide. You say that you will, when you grow up, you want to own a safari lodge, and you want Byron and I to come and work for you. Well, Donovan, it would be an honor to come and work for you. I hope that you will be a good boss and kind to us and pay us many bonuses. If that is the case, we will certainly come and work for you. Thank you, Donovan, for your offer of employment. I may have to take you up on it. Can David come too, Donovan? David also might be unemployed by then. And can you also buy your safari lodge quite soon, Donovan, because I'm not getting any younger. And you know, at 40 years old, let's say that you buy your safari lodge when you're 20, that's in 12 years' time. I'll be 52. That's really old, isn't it? Well, for you it is. For me it won't be. There's a very large bird. Let me just move out. Sorry, David. It is a martial eagle, David. It is. There it goes. And as it flies off, you may have just heard the squirrels going tick, 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 tick. In fact, it wasn't squirrels, it was dwarf mongoose. Wingspan of some 20 at least 210 centimeters, 2.1 meters. That's about 7 feet. Beautiful. Okay, we're really very close to the southern boundary now. Oh gosh, this piece of road is really falling apart slightly. There we are. These Impala look chilled to the max, as they say. They don't seem to be too panicked. So what we'll do is we'll go into the boundary and then just switch off and have a listen. Right, here we are. Hold on, David. We're going to swing to the right.
Okay, got you.
Keep an eye out for some tracks and also for some alarm calls. I just want to go a little bit along here so we know how fast those dogs move. They could be into Buffels Hook by now.
Where are you now? Everyone's still on Buffels Hook.
Just listening to the radio, sorry. Oh no, we're okay, I think. It should have been around here somewhere. Just go a little bit further and then switch off and listen. Okay. Just around here. See if we can hear any sounds of panicked antelope. Charging kudu. No. Just the sound of the ghost bird. And the black-headed oriole, and the very pleasant breeze coming from the east. No, nothing so far. Okay, let's go a little bit further. Right, in the meantime, let's head across to Byron, find out if he's managed to reach Buffels Hook, and if he found his elephants there.
Not quite at Buffels Hook just yet, James. We're almost there, and we're going to see what that has in store for us. I'm guessing we're going to see a hippo. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, hippo.
Let's see. It is a bit cooler today, so that hippo could possibly be lying out of the water somewhere. You never know. Still no sign of any elephant, and I would like to see some elephant this afternoon. Always really enjoy spending time with them. We had a really exciting morning for birding, and well, I was very excited because we got to see bronze-winged courser, which is a nocturnal bird and usually quite difficult to see, and they were walking through the thicket or through the scrub. And then we saw a kingfisher called the grey-headed kingfisher, and that was very quick. Unfortunately, we weren't able to show it to you, but it's only the second time I've ever seen one, so it was really exciting for me and not that common in this area. So it was very, very nice. All right, James has got a bird that he would like to show you quickly.
It's gone, everyone. We're going to try and find it again, and I bet it's not on many of your bird lists. It's a European golden oriole. We see them quite often, but we don't get them on camera, and we had this thing perfectly framed for about 3 seconds, and then it disappeared. I'm just going to go backwards a little bit, see if it doesn't fly. It's the first time I've actually managed to get the cameraman into a position where he can see it. They like to be in the thick marula branches. They're very secretive. If they don't fly, it's almost impossible to see them. Let's just keep an eye there, and I'll take out the book and show you a picture of what it looks like. No, I think it's gone. You know what? Let's cheat. I'm going to play its call. Hello, Alice in Wonderland / Ohio. You were hoping to see a black-headed oriole today. Well, this thing, to my mind, is even more beautiful. And what I'm going to do is play its call and see if we can't convince it to come out. Isn't that gorgeous? Well, this one, wherever it is, doesn't seem particularly concerned about this lot. Byron says, I probably saw a weaver. Well, that is very rich coming from somebody who's been seeing a sort of form of a sweet pudding on giraffes' heads for most of his life. No, they're so secretive. Anyway, there it is. There's the Eurasian golden oriole. You can see it's distinctive from the black-headed in that it doesn't have a... Well done, David. No black head. And that is the African one down there. And this one, Byron will tell you, when he was on training, we had the most amazing time with an African golden oriole. We sat with it in a tree probably for about 25 minutes. It was in plain, gorgeous, beautiful view. And that, to my mind, is the most beautiful oriole that we get. But the Eurasian ain't too far from it. And what you look out for if you see them flying is very, very black wings and this flash of yellow as it opens the wings off its back. Anyway, hopefully sometime during the summer we'll be able to show you a Eurasian golden oriole. There are no wild dogs around here. Anyway, maybe the universe has brought us into this area for another reason. Those buffalo are looking to the south. Hello, Rob in New Jersey. You want to know if the Baltimore oriole has ever been spotted here? I'm assuming you're being slightly tongue-in-cheek. No, not as far as I know. I don't think the Baltimore oriole has ever been seen in the Kruger Park. Well, this is where they thought that the dogs were, right here. Now, this very small breeding herd of buffalo, consisting of one bull and one cow, is looking suspiciously down towards the south. Let's ask them if they've seen any wild dogs. That is, of course, a very unchivalrous buffalo. You can see he's hiding behind his wife, which is very, very poor form indeed. Have you seen any wild dogs? Have you? Not. Well, she's talking to us. He's not. Come on, dear, he says, let's get out of here. They do look like a rather grumpy old couple, I must say. Well, thanks for your help. Thank you. Off you go. Hope you don't get eaten by the Nkahuma pride. Right, let's carry on here. Keep looking behind us just to check. All right, let's continue with Byron's story. I don't know what fanciful things he was telling you before we saw the weaver. Let's head back and find out.
I was just talking about the birds that we saw this morning, James. Unfortunately, it sounds like you just missed that oriole, which is a pity. They are beautiful birds, and you don't see them often. I think I've only seen that one in this area once or twice. Speaking of birds, there's one flying over there. Will it land? It looked like a purple roller. Let me just see. It did land in the tree over there. Hang on a second. Can you get it through there, Brian? Let's see. Looks like a purple roller, perhaps. And it is indeed, yes. There we go. James, I identified something correctly first time, so I think I'm back. And these rollers are also very, very beautiful. Not as colorful and vibrant as the lilac-breasted roller. Oh, beautiful birds, the rollers. And we watched one this morning catch a dung beetle in flight. Swooped down, caught the dung beetle and ate it. So it was really interesting to see. Also just shows you how strong those beaks are of these rollers, because the dung beetles, I mean, they've got some serious serious exoskeleton, a very hard exoskeleton, and that purple roller managed to feed on it very easily. Nice to see that roller. Trying to listen out if I can't hear any elephant. Perhaps they're moving around somewhere. I can hear an emerald spotted wood dove in the distance. Trying to hear if it calls again. Something like that. Let us continue. Nice to see that purple roller. Nice open little section that we are driving along now, so we might get animals passing through. Sorry, some flies around here at the moment. Also the edge of a drainage line, which is just off to our left. And I always say it, but these thickets and drainage lines are great areas for leopards to move through, because they don't like to be seen very much. They're very secretive cats. So Laura, the rarest animal that I've ever seen in this reserve is a pangolin, and it was just south of here. And a pangolin is a nocturnal animal. I'll show you a picture of one shortly. Let me just move out the way of this other vehicle quickly, and I'll show you a picture of a pangolin. They are wonderful animals, but very, very rare. Let me quickly get my book out and I'll show you a picture of a pangolin. Afternoon, everyone. How are you? How's it going? Let me see where this pangolin is. And Laura, not many of them have been seen in this area, and I know there was one seen on Safari Live not too long ago. Brian, it was a few months ago, was it not? Yeah, and that is a pangolin, also known, some people refer to them as scaly anteaters. I've just heard something snort. So, Laura, this was probably the rarest animal that I've seen in this area. And I know a lot of guides and people that have been working in the bush for many years, and they've never seen one of these. And I was fortunate enough to see one while I worked in this area, in the Sabi Sands, and recently I've been guiding people all over, and we've been going to the Kalahari quite a bit, and I think now I must be on about 14 pangolin in the last year and a half, which is amazing. I've seen a lot of pangolin there. They tend to be a bit more active, and it's easier to find them. The sand makes it easier to track. So I've seen quite a few over there. We're going to continue our search for elephants. James has got some pigs he'd like to show you.
Pork. Everybody, pork. Delicious. Warthog, quite possibly the most delicious thing you can eat out here. Although that does sort of put one off a little, doesn't it, David? Yes. Anyway, they've done really well, I think, during the drought. I've said this to you before. They've survived very well, and now they'll begin to put on very nice condition with all of this green grass that they're eating, and they're sticking to what essentially is a fire break. That's a sort of clearing here on the sides of the road. And that's so that they can see what might want to come and eat them. In this case, it could be something like, Karula if she was coming back. Otherwise, those wild dogs would go for warthog. Now, David, just behind us, it's starting to cool. It is the red-crested kohan, everybody, and they are doing their suicide display at the moment. I think there are too many trees there for us to see that. That's the bird that jumps up into the sky and then crashes to the ground again, just opening his wings on time. All right, let's carry on from here and see if we can't find anything at Treehouse Dam. This, of course, everybody, is our first, I suppose you'd call it summer drive. So we'll be going until 7 o'clock this evening. They'll give us about half an hour of darkness at the end of the drive, which, when it's hot, is a very good thing. Now, I don't know if we've managed to catch the suicide bird on camera doing its display. I've never seen it with you on camera, but I'm sure maybe somebody's managed to catch it. But if we can, it really is, it's a very amusing thing to see. Tingana is still on Torchwood. We still don't have the lions, obviously, otherwise we'd be with them. But there is an astounding amount, I think, of general game. What have we seen? We've seen duiker, we've seen, well, you've seen nyala, wildebeest, zebra, buffalo, impala, waterbuck, lots of different herds of buffalo, lots of different zebra herds, pigs. Paul, you want to know if I've eaten a lot of wild game? Paul, I've eaten quite a lot. Not as much as, say, the Nkuhuma Pride has eaten. I've had buffalo steak, which is like, well, basically, if you... I don't know if you've still got the shoes that you went to school in, but if you were to take them and to cook them over a fire for a little while and then put a bit of salt on them, that's what it would taste like. Very, very tough indeed. I've had nyala, which is pretty good. I've had giraffe, which is both not very tasty and very tough. What else have I had? I think impala is quite nice. Venison out here, though, tends to be best when it's stewed. Then it is delicious. And what else? I've had, and warthog. Warthog is absolutely delicious. springbok. That is our national animal, roughly the same size as an impala. A gazelle, the only southern African gazelle that we get, and they're pretty delicious too. What else? I've eaten crocodile even, believe it or not, and that tastes like a mixture between fish and chicken. It's not delicious, I won't lie to you. It just tastes like chicken that's sort of gone a bit off. And I think that's probably about it. Hello, Lyot. We're talking about eating things out here and possibly survival in the absence of Western consumer produce. You want to know if there are any fruits out here? Well, yes, there are. Not many, and they don't fruit for a long time, the trees. So these trees that we're going past now, the marulas, which we've talked about quite a lot, will fruit. The female trees will, and our one in camp has actually started fruiting already, which is nice. And they produce fruit only for about 3 or 4 weeks at a time, and then there's no fruit anymore. And then we get something called a sour plum, which fruits for probably even less time than that. The guarri bushes make little red berries for a short period as well, probably for how long? Little bit longer at the end of the summer. They're not very nice either. Whiteberry bush, quite nice, a bit like a sweet pea, but otherwise not a huge amount in the way of fruit out here. And I've often said, people say, well, could you survive out here? And you can, but I don't think you could survive out here as a vegetarian or a vegan. I think you would have to have some kind of meat, so you'd have to supplement whatever you gathered in terms of roots and tubers and that sort of thing with meat. And I was chatting to Herbert about it the other day. Because he, of course, comes from his mother is a sangoma, or traditional healer, which means she knows all of the plants out here and what they're used for. And I said to him, do you think you could survive out here if you didn't hunt? And he said no, he didn't think that at all. He think you'd have to be able to hunt, certainly in the winter months when there really is very little in the way of roots. And those roots that there are, the tubers and bulbs and things that we find out here, are often highly toxic. So I'm often been on drive with some guests and they've said, well, could you survive out here on your own? And the answer is no, probably not, because I'm no hunter. Steph, of course, has showed you how to make his traps. I'm not sure that he's ever actually caught anything in one of his traps. There's a duiker over there, which unfortunately has been chased slightly by our sound.
To the north of the road.
There he is. She is. Mrs. Dyker. David, would you say there's a bit of mange there? No, I don't think there's any mange there. I also think it's a little male, young male. It is a male. It's got horns. It's also got something else, which I noticed, which is why I looked again for its horns. David, you say you would just walk to a lodge if you wanted to survive out here. David, that would absolutely be the most practicable plan. And if you're in the Sabi Sand like we are, well, you can then, there'll be a lodge pretty much within, I wouldn't say any more than 7 kilometers of anywhere where you're standing. That duiker is desperately trying to hide from us and doing a fairly poor job. We can still see you, yes, that is correct. The little nose, looking for concentrated food. A little animal like this must try and find as concentrated a food as possible, so it'll be loving this time of the year. New buds and shoots. Doesn't realize that its bottom is sticking out of its hiding place. There we are. That's one for Taylor, actually. One of the bottoms of Africa. Doesn't really understand how this great big green thing with its eyes in the front has stopped here, but seems to be not looking at it, but is not going away. And I'm sure animals do see the Land Rover like that, with the two lights in the front. I'm sure to many they probably do seem like eyes. The little nose. Constantly smelling. And also, you can see that as the leaves blow, just look under the left eye of the duiker, which is basically the eye that is to the right for us. Oh, come on, lift your head now. There's very clearly, you can see the entrance to the preorbital gland. That's how they mark their territory. It always astounds me that you don't find a duiker or steenbok with no eye, because they have to push sticks into that gland to mark them, to leave their scent. There. You see that? That line underneath the eye? That's where the preorbital gland is. And it just amazes me that they don't ever kind of do their eyes an injury. What a wonderful duiker sighting, David. Possibly the world's worst hiding duiker, and that's why we've had a good time with him. Your bottom is exposed. You will be seen. Doesn't care. Right, let's continue. We're right at the dam. There we go, Drigger. Now, we were chatting about weavers earlier. Well, we weren't. Byron was casting aspersions on my birding ability. And this is where we're hoping that there'll be a bit of a weaver colony later on. But I see that Now, you know why we're not going to have weavers here this year. That's very sad, I'll tell you now. Well, it's not very sad on the scale of very sad things, but it's slightly disappointing, I suppose. Let me show you. I was rather hoping the wild dogs would appear here chasing something. Well, maybe we'll be lucky. This tree looked to have died, but I see that it has got some green leaves on it. But this is where the weavers were, and this is where they set up their nests last time round, 2 years ago. And they like to be near water. That's the village weaver. I think there's one down there. Hang on a second, everyone. I'll just go and fetch it for you. Oh, goodness gracious, David, I'm so stiff. We did a little exercise workout yesterday, everybody, but because we're all getting old, we pushed it a little too far. While I walk down, David, there is a shongololo. Can you see it? Oh, David. I'll come and find it for you. Can you still hear me? Oh, that is a relief. Good grief, I really can hardly walk. Here it is, David. Have you got him there? An enormous songololo or millipede, and a particularly silly songololo or millipede, everybody, because it is sitting on a knobthorn tree and it has wrapped itself onto the thorns. Why are you on the thorns? Yes? No. Can't tell me. It's a problem with stupidity. It's not very communicative. But no, I thought one of the nests had fallen out, but it's actually a piece of elephant dung. Never mind. Never mind. Oh. Right, we'll carry on towards the south again and just do another little foray and see if we aren't lucky with those dogs. Otherwise, we'll head off towards the east. Here is a piece of elephant dung that I had mistaken because it was behind another piece of elephant dung. Look at this. There are two beetles in here. You see them, David? Now that will be some manner of dung beetle. Which one, I don't know. Isn't that cool? Good. Well, we'll better put it back then. Excellent. I don't know which dung beetle that is, and like I have said to you before, of course, more than 900 species of dung beetle in the world. That is many beetles. Okay, on we go. Alrighty, well, we head down to the south again. As the clouds start to look a little bit more ominous, let's head across to Byron and find out if he is still on the property or if he's lost.
I am still around, James. You can't get rid of me that easily. Brian and I were just listening to some squirrels alarm calling. So I'm just having a good look around here. And you'd be surprised how often we have found predators because of squirrels alarm calling. But the thing is, they may alarm call at anything, including birds of prey. So eagles that are flying around, I don't seem to see anything at the moment, and it sounds like they've kept quiet. The other thing is that there's some impala, a big herd of impala right next to us. So I can still hear one squirrel alarm calling in the distance over there. But I looked around and did not see anything, so I'm not sure what it is that has that squirrel so upset. And what I'd like to do is let me move a bit closer, and perhaps you can hear the squirrel so you know what a squirrel alarm call sounds like. I'm just going to look carefully while I drive there. We are approaching a little drainage line. It is a bit thicker down here. So let's see. Also just having a good look for any tracks crossing the road perhaps. Just stop and see if that squirrel is alarm calling again. And Tina from Ontario wants to know, are there any large reptiles around? Tina, there are. This area, we do find 2 lizards, which are the largest lizard species in the whole of Africa. And they are called the monitor lizards. Now, the monitor lizards... Sorry, I'm just listening to those squirrels again. The monitor lizards get very, very big. Some monitor lizards will get to about this length, if you can see that, to about that length. Move my head out the way. Very, very large. You have the rock monitor and the water monitor. Obviously, the water monitor does live closer to rivers and dams and around those areas. And the rock monitor you'll find anywhere in the bush, usually in dead tree stumps. They like to live inside there, and they'll move around. Very thick-set lizards, very powerful, very strong tail that they can use as a whip in defense against any predators, and they've got quite strong jaws, so if they do bite down on something, they've got very, very powerful jaws. So Tina, those are probably the 2 largest lizards that we get over here, and then also snakes. We get a lot of reptiles, a lot of snakes around here, but I still think we need a bit more rain to get more activity from those reptiles, and it needs to stay warm for a bit longer, and then we'll probably start seeing more activity from those animals. Just trying to see if I can get you to hear that squirrel quickly. It's calling over there again, but that's one in the distance. There was one closer here, everyone. There, did you hear that? Selena's asked, could the squirrel be lambing at us, at the vehicle? No, I don't think so. Hang on there, I see a bird flying over there. Let me just see what that is. It looks, that's a juvenile batelier. And perhaps the squirrels are alarm calling at the batelier. It's not often. So no, Selena, they won't be alarm calling at the vehicle. It's highly unlikely. I mean, we drive past squirrels all the time and they don't really alarm call at us. Perhaps if I was walking around, they may then alarm call at me. But these animals are intelligent. They know what is a threat to them and what isn't. Oh, well done, Brian, on following that batelier. Lovely to see it fly across the sky. Look how far that was. Amazing. A young juvenile batelier. And some Egyptian geese flying behind us. You can probably hear them. I'm just listening carefully in this area. And you know, times like this, if you don't see tracks of animals, but if you hear alarm calls, I don't know, I often get this gut feel that, you know, you need to be patient and just sit around and wait. And you might see something. Another bird of prey. That's an adult batelier that was flying lower down. It was probably a bit just through the trees. There's a lot going on. So I've just heard the black-bellied bustard. B-U-S-T-A-R-D. It's a beautiful bird, ground bird. They do this wonderful call and display. Just want to see if it does call again. So I really am trying to listen very carefully. Let's move forward a little bit, everyone, and just see if I can't find that bird quickly, the black-bellied bustard. Really beautiful bird. It might be sitting on a termite mound somewhere. They usually do that if they find a nice little mound that gives them a bit of a vantage point to look around, and then as they call, the call is probably travels a bit further. So let's just see. I heard it again. It's somewhere here. Alright, I'm going to have to scan carefully, everyone. Let's see, because it is a wonderful bird to see. And it has got a beautiful call. They do this, the call sounds something like a whoop. A little pop at the end. Can you see it? Was it behind the tree? That must have rolled back. Brian said he saw it, everyone. Let's just have a good look. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Gee, Brian, well done. Well done. There we go. Do the display for us again, please. Wow, Brian, well spotted. It really is so helpful having another set of eyes on the vehicle, as you can see, and that was very well spotted. Look how well that bird is camouflaged, and you see how it's walking along the ground. Let's just see if it calls again. No, don't go behind the tree. It looks like something is chasing it there. Okay, have a look, come on. Yeah. I thought it would call again. Let's stick on it. Come on. And you see it extends its neck and drops its neck very quickly as it calls. Watch. There we go. Did you see that, everyone? See that little pop at the end there? Whoop. But look at that. Look at that spot. Look how far away it is. That's amazing, Brian. Thank you very much. Wasn't that incredible? James wanted to know if these bustards construct any nest. They are ground nesting birds, James, so they lay eggs that are very, very well camouflaged. They'll probably get together a pile of leaves or anything just to try hide them, but they don't nest in the trees or anything. They're ground nesting birds. And it's incredible to see how they camouflage their eggs to make sure that those chicks are safe, or the eggs are safe. And even when the chicks hatch, they're very well camouflaged, so they can hide in the dense scrub. Oh, some kudu, everybody. Here we go. Sorry, brakes. We've got some kudu right here next to us. Looks like a herd of mostly females with some young males. There we go. Just when you think things aren't happening for you, bump into something. They're beautiful females. Look at that. See those very prominent white stripes down the body on the females? But they do look a bit strange. It looks like the neck has just been joined on. It doesn't look like it's meant to be part of the body, because it's a slightly grayish color compared to the rest of the body, which is more brown. And you can see those very large ears. And watch as they walk. Those ears constantly move around. And the reason for that is they rely so much on their hearing while they're moving through the thicker, dense scrub and bush, because they are browsers. They feed off the leaves of the trees. So these kudu rely a lot on their sense of hearing and their sense of smell to pick up on any predators or any danger. And these are, like I said, mostly youngsters and females. I don't see any big males. The big males get those beautiful spiral horns. That was a nice surprise. Very, very nice surprise. And they're beautiful antelope, the kudu. Very, very beautiful. It's always wonderful seeing them. And the males are definitely one of my favorites. Anyway, we're going to continue on, see what else we can find. Let's head to James and see if he's got an update for you.
Our update is doves. Birds of peace up there, David. Do you see them being peaceful? That's not them, David. That is a bare branch of a tree. If you go up from there, and again, and to the right, and up, no, up, there, right, there, zoom. There we are. That's them there. Phew. Yay, well done, everybody. A sigh of relief that David can still see. Those are... Those are laughing doves, and they are laughing at David now, because he thought they were invisible doves, which of course we don't get here. Well, we wouldn't know if we got invisible doves here, would we, David? They could be all over the place, really, by the very nature of the fact that they're invisible. And it's I suppose, a little less appreciated than our good friend, the Shivambalani, or the, as we know it, the green-spotted or emerald-spotted wood dove, and also not quite as common as the ring-necked dove. But they're just as important, and they go hurr, 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 hurr. See how impressed they were with that, David? Yes, they were nodding their heads in deep appreciation. I'm now going to play the call on my phone because I'm actually not convinced that I'm telling you the truth. I think they only do that when they land. Let me just look quickly. Laughing dove, play. Ah. So now it's really impressed. It's not making that horror noise at all, is it? Here we go, come on. Oh. I'm sure I've heard one of these things going, horror, horror, horror. How very embarrassing. I shouldn't have played it. No one would have been any the wiser, David. Now, I bet Kirsten's told Byron that I made that mistake, and he'll just never shut up when we get home. Okay, let's move on from the invisible doves and press on. Humble laughing dove, which is what I meant to say, of course, is that they don't go hurr, hurr, hurr. Byron apparently is now extremely happy that I too have been caught out. Look, I'm not going to put that in the same level of mistake as an ossicle. There are very few words that could come close to ossicle. Especially that he then just had to go and check it out because he didn't believe. There is you see that very big bird. Well done, David. You found that one. That is a white-backed vulture skulking. But I think more importantly, it is a beastly looking thing, isn't it? It looks very, very depressed. I thought I saw, I did. There's an oxpecker nest. And David, the chances of you seeing this at this stage of the day with the camera are negligible to zero, but we're going to give it a go. Can you see there? Yeah. Just go a little bit there. That's it. Perfect. In the middle of the screen, you see the hanging down a bit. There. There's an oxpecker in there. You just saw the movement there. There it is. Look, that's where their little nest is. Hooray. Now, we're not going to dally with the oxpeckers because Byron, my good old pal, has managed to find our first big game of the afternoon.
I have indeed, James, a beautiful herd of elephant, but they're moving very quickly past us. I'm not sure where they're heading to, and they unfortunately crossing the boundary already just behind us. That female's just having a good look at us. Do you see that? Wow, she's a beautiful big female. That's very possibly the matriarch. And they're disappearing off through the thicket there. A very quick view, but we got to find our elephant, which is great. Unfortunately, straight across our boundary. It's one of those things. They do move very quickly if they want to. I wouldn't be surprised if they're heading into an area where there's possibly a dam. That's onto Buffelshoek. So I think there's a dam that they're going to drink at potentially. And can you hear a red-chested cuckoo? Can you hear that, everyone? There we go. Lovely sound. Can't see it, and that's quite far actually. Nice to see those elephant. Wasn't that a nice surprise? But they seem to have something on the mind, or they definitely had an intention to head somewhere. possibly to some water. At least we got to see them quickly, which was lovely. Nice little herd. There were some youngsters, probably around 5 or 6 years old. They weren't much younger than that. So always nice to see elephant. Aaron wanted to know if elephant poaching was a problem in the Kruger. Aaron, no, fortunately not. Not elephant. So I'm just having a quick look around this area to see if there are any more elephant around here, but I think the whole herd have passed through. I don't see any others following. So Aaron, no, there's no problem with poaching of elephant in Kruger. In other parts of Africa, there is a problem though. And it's very, very sad. It's, I think, predominantly up in East Africa, they do have some issues with the poaching of elephant and the ivory trade, which is terrible. But fortunately, these areas, the elephants are well protected, and even in Botswana and that, they're quite safe. See, I think it's been a very interesting afternoon. It's a little bit cooler, cloudy, and it seems as if a lot of animals have gone into hiding almost. Predators, which I would have thought would be more active, have disappeared. Not too sure what happened to the Nkuhuma pride. I know Herbert was trying to give us a hand in finding them, because I actually went back to where that buffalo carcass was from this morning, and there was no sign of the lions. They've disappeared completely, which is strange. So I'm not sure if they were chased off by perhaps a herd of elephant, or what the reason is for them moving. But it can happen like that at times, where animals just disappear. And I always say it's good, because you can't always expect to see everything all the time. These are wild animals, and they'll move wherever they want. And we do have to work a little bit harder at times, but I do think that the bush kind of repays you if you have got patience and you do just enjoy being out here and taking it easy and driving around. You never know, things do happen very quickly in front of you. Starting to lose a bit of light now, and I think it'll probably get darker a lot earlier because of this cloud cover. It's still very, very cloudy, so it most likely will get a lot darker earlier, so the spotlights will come out and we'll see what we can find with them. A friend of mine who used to work in this area before, Chris, he told me, he always said, oh, listen, while you're up there, if you ever want to find a leopard, you need to drive through Sandy Patch. He says that he always had luck finding leopard around here. And this is about my 30th time of driving through Sandy Patch, and I'm yet to find a leopard. So Chris, if you are watching, you need to give me some more tips, because I can't seem to find one in this area. I'm going to carry on looking around here. Hopefully we find something soon. Let's head back to James and see if he's found anything, or if he's getting the bird calls right.
Hello everybody again. We've come up back towards where we thought the lions were earlier today. Herbert's still knocking about here, but it's starting to get a little bit dark, and that means it's going to be difficult. There is a vulture up there, and I'm just wondering if he isn't standing perhaps above the lions. or flying away. That is the white-backed vulture, of course. So we'll just do a little turn up here. But I don't know where these things have gone, and if Herbert can't find the tracks, I mean, they must have flown away. I'm just going to keep a quick eye out here. Yeah. I think with the fading light, we may have to call it quits on the lions. Let's just drive down this road. David says there's a termite mound that's being built just down here, and I think you did look at it, but we've got a special wire we can use to get off the car. Now, Gracie, aged 9, you've asked a very good question, which I shall answer while we look at that bird that's sitting in the tree over there. Can you see it, David? Yes, well done. That is a juvenile battalier, everybody. Gracie, your question is if... Your question is if we were to play a bird call of a bird that is not from this area, would the birds here be afraid? Gracie, no, I don't think they'd be afraid at all. I think what you'd find is that they just wouldn't recognize it. It's the same way that if I play, say, the call of a bird that's only found in Cape Town to some of the doves or that battalier that's flying over there, they just wouldn't recognize it, and so they wouldn't be afraid. They would be afraid if you played them, say, the call of an eagle or a bird of prey that might want to eat them. Then that would make them afraid, absolutely, and they would look out and maybe even alarm call. Good question. It's got very dark all of a sudden, and it's not because the sun has set. It's because the clouds are thickening overhead. We had almost no rain last night. There was just a sort of slightly irritating drizzle. I might actually have to turn the lights on. Now, Kathleen, you say that the lions were seen at the Djuma Dam Cam during the middle of the day and they headed south, which is where we started. You know, we started in the drainage line just to the south of the pan, and we have found nothing, I'm afraid. Let's put some lights on. There we go. Well, one light. It seems the jigger has one light, David. You see that? One light facing to the right. Well, somebody sees us coming, they'll think we're a motorbike. That would be an extreme sport, everybody. Motorbiking through here. People often say, when I talk about horseback safaris, they say, oh, that's so dangerous. But that wouldn't stop them getting on a bicycle in this area. I got to tell you, I think bicycling around an area like this is mildly insane. Elephants dislike bicycles immensely, and they will chase them. And lions are fascinated by bicycles, and they too will chase them. And you have to have the presence of mind. If you're on a bicycle in an area like this, you have to have the presence of mind to get off the bike if you see lions and stand. Which, of course, your immediate reaction if you're on a bicycle is to ride as fast as you can away. But unless you're able to ride at roughly 45 miles an hour through some soft sand, you're going to struggle to escape. David, where is your termite mound? Halfway up Philemon's Dip. David, are you eating? No. You're eating at work, aren't you? What are you eating, David?
Nachi, would you like a piece?
I'd love a piece. Thank you, David. No. You see, I'm only having one, everybody, out of principle because David wasn't going to share with me. He thought I wouldn't ask for one while we were live. Hello, Paul. Excuse me while I finish my piece of nachi. A nachi, everybody, I think is a clementine in English. It was a good clementine, David. It's very sweet. Which, of course, is not very good for us, but anyway. Paul, you're wondering if we do any other work on the reserve. when we go back from drive. No, we don't do any reserve work. We do other work. We do a bit of video editing. The directors have got lots of bits and pieces that they have to do. I sometimes write the odd script for our roll-ins for TV, which are our clips for TV. And that's about it. There's no conservation work that we do here, though. That's all done by people on site, by the Djuma staff. David, where is this thing? I don't believe you. It was that one. And it's no longer this one. No. There certainly isn't. That thing looks like it's been dormant for about 8 years. Are you sure? You don't think that was it, do you? No, I don't either. Sorry about that, everybody. No lions and no termites. Gosh. Hello, Winter Prism. Well, we looked at that completely inactive termite mound that has not been built in the last 7 decades. You want to know how long it takes them to make a mound that size? Winter Prism, a mound that size that we were looking at there would probably have taken, I'd say, maybe about 5 years. They say like a sort of big ball every year is what they're able to build. I've seen them building much faster than that, though, so I'm not convinced that that's true. That one I would have put it about 5 years. And remember, it's a proverbial tip of the iceberg story where much more of the termite mound is actually below the ground, and it spreads down to the water table in many cases. No, but my pancreas is now in rebellion after that extremely sugar-shocked clementine you gave me. Must apologize for eating, everybody, but you know, one must teach these cameramen that they cannot sit there and scoff their faces off while we're live in the hopes that we won't try and share their meals. It's despicable behavior. Thank you, Fran, for taking a great screenshot of me eating my clementine. We're going to go straight back towards the Djuma Pan now and see if we can't find some sign of those lions. It's got cool now, they might get up and move. I think a little drive along to where those buffalo and zebra were earlier is probably also a good idea. Anyway, while we do that, let us update ourselves with Byron's latest piece of astounding vocabulary.
James, I unfortunately have got no updates for anybody. We've been driving around, but no luck. Looks like James and I are struggling a little bit this afternoon. As I said, it's good. It keeps us humble. It makes us remember that this is a wild area and we cannot guarantee anything. Sounds like some guinea fowl calling in the distance. The bird that sounds like a bicycle pump almost, a squeaky bicycle pump. Something like that. Jen B was saying that if she had to listen to all the bird calls that I do, every bird in Southern Africa ends with a giggle, and I do apologize, Jen B. It's yeah, I think because I after the call I realized how ridiculous I sound, so I think that's why I just end up giggling. Sure, I'm just getting a spotlight, but it's still a little bit too light for the spotlight, I think. Yeah, it's still a little bit too light. It's now that I always call it an awkward light because it's not quite dark enough for a spotlight and it's not really light enough to see very clearly. So we're just taking a slow drive and scanning the area. You never know, we could still spot something. Some cicada bugs. Can you hear that, everyone? Can you hear these cicada bugs? Now, I can explain to you about these cicada bugs because they are very, very interesting. Now, these cicada bugs, and I would normally ask my guests, how do you think they make that sound? And you can all send us your answers if you'd like to. If you'd like to hazard a guess as how these cicada bugs make that call, that sound. They sound like crickets, but in fact they don't stridulate, which is that rubbing of the legs together, which causes that sound that crickets make. And what the cicada bug actually does, and I find this incredible, they've got with the cicada bug, the abdomen is about this, well, call it quite round. And within the abdomen there's a thin membrane that runs straight through it, and basically there are two tendons attached to this membrane inside the body, and they contract their muscles inside the body and release them. And what it does is it causes that membrane to bend, so it'll bend up and then release. And what that does is it creates a clicking sound. The best way I can describe it is if you think of a Coke can, perhaps, or any can of a cool drink, and when you press it in, you hear that clicking sound. It clicks and it pops back out. So that's what happens with this membrane. And then they have these cavities which basically resonate that sound and cause that sound to resonate and sound a lot louder than it is. And it's known, the process is known as timbals, and those timbals cause that sound to be a lot louder. And what they do is they contract those muscles and cause that membrane to release very quickly. And that clicking sound is happening so quickly, it causes that noise that we can hear at the moment. And it really is fascinating how that whole motion can cause this incredibly loud sound. And in the middle of summer, you can drive under trees, and where there are a lot of cicada bugs, it's deafening. It really is incredibly loud. I remember a story, I think years ago, there was a cicada bug in the Sydney Opera House. There was one bug in the Sydney Opera House, and because of the acoustics around, they had to close the Opera House for, I can't remember what the extent was. I think it was a few weeks, because this bug was making so much noise in the Opera House, it obviously disturbed any opera or any event that went on in there, and they had to try and, I think they fumigated, or they had to try and find this bug somehow. So isn't that incredible? I read that, but it was a few years ago. So one cicada bug closed down the Sydney Opera House. Almost time for the spotlight. Hey Brian, what do you think? Just about. See, so now we'll start scanning for little owls, perhaps, little chameleons, scorpions. Paul would like to know, Paul says, James said he taught me a great zebra call, and he asked if I can make that call, or the sound a zebra makes. Zebra, Paul, yeah, you really put me on the spot here, didn't you? So the zebra sound like no, that's not it. Zebra, oh dear, Paul, you've got me stumped at the moment. You put me on the spot. I don't think I can do it. I'll think about it. I'll try work on it. No, actually I can't. You're going to have to ask James. Because James taught me so well, you can ask him and he'll do it for you. Oh dear. I have a feeling the ladies in the FC are bent over their chairs at the moment with laughter, and that's why they're not talking to me at the moment. Yeah, exactly. That's what's happened, everyone. So the girls are laughing at my expense. Oh dear. Come on, where are all these little scorpions? So Kristen from North Carolina would like to know, what are some of the rules that we give to our guests when they come on a safari? So that I do know, Kristen. And usually what I do with the guests is when we arrive at the lodge, give them a brief bit of orientation around the area and what we're going to be doing on our safari. And then once we get onto the vehicle, quick game drive briefing basically starts off by me telling them, what have we got there? Impala. So what we do is I'll say to them, please keep the arms and legs in the vehicle at all times during the game drive, and also try and avoid touching any branches. While we're driving, you will come across branches that overhang into the road. So please be careful, mind your heads, but don't touch them because a lot of the branches have got sharp thorns on them and we don't want you to cut your hands or anything. Please remain seated at all times during the game drive, and the reason for that is the animals pick up on the movement on the vehicle and they will see us if we do move around too much. And also while I'm driving, it can get a bit bumpy and we don't want to lose a guest. I haven't lost anyone yet, so I don't want to lose anyone in the future. The other thing is, please just ask as many questions as you'd like while we're driving around. If we do get into any big cat sightings or any predator sightings or get close to animals, just keep your voices down because the animals obviously react to loud noises and we don't want to startle them. And then if you need the bathroom at any stage, let me know and I'll gladly stop and find you a safe bush to go behind. And occasionally we like to say, every tree is a lavatory out here. So we do try and find you a safe spot. Hang on. What is that? Can you see through there? Is that a little duiker hiding in there? What is that? No, it is a little duiker. Oh, shame. It's a little duiker just lying down. Just caught a glimpse of an eye. I don't want to shine on the spotlight on him too long, but he's lying down. I just saw these little two eyes. I thought it might be something small, almost like a genet or something, but it's a little duiker that's lying in the scrub. And Kristen, that's about it. And then, I always remind my guests, we out here to have fun and enjoy it, so let's do that. And we'll hopefully find as many of the animals as we possibly can that they'd like to see. But those are generally the rules. And then just don't get out the vehicle unless I say it's okay. But basically the main thing is keep your arms and legs in the vehicle, don't stand, and those are usually the most important rules. And don't get off the vehicle unless I say it's okay. Alright, I'm going to continue my search for little creatures. Speaking of little creatures, let's head back to James.
Excuse me, everybody. I'm just lolling and ruffling at Byron's hilarious joke. I'll tell you what his next two will be. His next two will be something about my lack of hair, and then it will be something about how old I am. Those are vultures, and that's why I stopped here, because vultures often signify that there is some sort of predator around. Indeed, if you were to ask Graham Wallington, he would tell you if you saw a vulture, you knew there was a lion there. That was our joke in the Mara. It's not true. But I'm just wondering why they've landed here. Now, we've come onto this road. I drove to exactly where they were yesterday, saw no sign. But what we did see was a giant knobthorn tree that had been pushed over. And I wonder if a lion and an elephant didn't come into that area to drink from that pan and chase the lions off sometime during the course of the day. That's what I think's happened. Now, we've come back onto the road where those buffalo and zebra were earlier on, where I suggested they watch out. And let's see if the lions haven't popped out somewhere around here. Herbert has done a very valiant job of trying to find them this afternoon, but I'm afraid the light has now got the better of him. We, of course, can carry on because we're in the car. I have a superb spotlighting technique, as you can see, David. Yes. I find it is always a good idea to pretend you're conducting the slow movement of a Mozart piano concerto. You see, David, you paint the bush. Yes, that is the most effective way. Yes. Now, there's some impala up ahead. They don't look terrified at all. There is, however, the slight smell of offal in the air. Now, I don't know if you know what I mean, everybody, but the insides of an animal that's just been killed, very macabre, I'm sorry, smells very distinctive. And I just got a whiff of that. The wind is coming from over there. Our noses, of course, as human beings, grossly underutilized. I find my nose to be very sensitive. I wanted to make a joke about Byron there, but I decided not to after I mentioned my sensitive nose. It wouldn't be fair. Byron has very good hygiene. There's definitely a smell of death in the air. I don't know why I should think turning the car... Oh, sorry, David. I dropped the clutch there without pushing the car out of gear. I gave myself a bit of a shock. Whew, are you all right? I wanted to just roll down the road here and see if... Can you smell that?
Yeah.
But that's rotting flesh. That's not new. Those buffalo that were around here have disappeared. Deb, good question. You say are all three kills completely gone? Certainly the baby buffalo from yesterday was. The buffalo from that earlier yesterday, I don't know. I never saw where it was. But it's certainly been abandoned. In fact, it has. I don't think it's finished completely. Herbert went there earlier. That's where he started his search today, and I don't think it is completely finished. No. We'll just make our way slowly down here, see what else we can see. Of course, we're now into the time of chameleons. Have you seen a chameleon yet this year, David?
I haven't.
Not this year, this season, I mean. No. Good, okay. So that would be a first for both of us. We haven't seen any. Goodness, imagine we were to see the first one, David. We would be hailed as heroes when we got back to camp. People would fling money at us and offer us favors. So would our stock go up in the camp. At the moment, however, I don't see any chameleons, David. All I hear is one lonely virtual starling making his final call before he goes into his comfortable little tree hole cavity nest. But I've no doubt his family is cooking him a very fine meal of roasted termites, not from the mound that you took me to, which of course has been dormant for more than a century.
Crossing into Pegasus from the side.
Right, P.T. Carmani, I'm not sure I've heard from you before, and so it's really good to hear from you. Thank you for talking to us. I'm just turning the Game Drive radio down. P.T., you say, have we ever used drones for the drives? We have. We have used them, and the best example of us using drones, or a drone, was on a wild dog hunt. It was the most phenomenal experience. Of course, you can see around here the bush is very thick. And to try and follow wild dogs through an area like this at the speed at which they go is A, insensitive, because we make a huge noise, and that makes it difficult for them to hunt and hear each other because their ears are hugely important. And secondly, well, we just break the cars trying to get through this stuff. And we had a wonderful experience where we put a drone up above the dogs hunting, and so from the final control they would say they could see me and the dogs, and they would say, okay, go left, go right, and I could stay well back from the hunt and just move in at the last kind of moment. There's some impala up ahead. I'm going to turn the lights off. Let's see if they are not perhaps looking or alarming. So Petey, yes, we have used them. The long and the short of it is, though, you're not actually allowed to use them around here unless you have a very special license to do it, especially because it's in a wildlife area. We're absolutely in the process of sorting that out. And in fact, Connor, our engineer / drone pilot, are you right there, David? Why are you throwing the camera on? We've just got another drone, and it's a very nice one. We're going to put a very special camera on it, so completely part of our plans, because it really does give a very nice overhead view of what's going on, especially for something like a wild dog hunt. It's by far the most sensitive way to follow a wild dog hunt. Come on, Jigger, there we go. I'm going to be at the front of the queue when these vehicles are finally put out to pasture. I don't hear any startled animals around here. Hello, Aaron, not from New Zealand. We have an Aaron in New Zealand who's a regular commentator. You're apparently a new Aaron, which is very good. I don't know if you're newer or older than the other one, but for us you're new. And you say, are the other vehicles especially equipped so that when we go over the ripples or corrugations in the road, it makes the picture look smooth? No, the vehicles are not specially equipped with any, well, they are, but not for that. And that is brought about by a very specialized stabilizer on the camera. And that's why it looks fairly smooth when we drive. And I mean, this is a fairly recent advent while we talk about technology, Aaron. When I got here just about a year and a half ago, we used cameras that didn't have nearly as sophisticated stabilization, which meant that if we were driving along, you couldn't turn the camera to the side at all, because it moved around a huge amount. These cameras, you can turn to the side, and pretty much whatever the car does, you hardly notice it. So it's purely in the camera. It's got nothing to do with the vehicle's special suspension. These vehicles are now 20 years old, just about. They're not young, and they certainly don't drive like they're young. I imagine a Model T Ford might be rather similar driving experience. This one also needs its shocks redone. Now, these lions have disappeared, so we're just going to continue and see what else we can see. We will try and find a chameleon. And while I try and find a chameleon, let's go to Byron and find out what his spotlighting technique is like. Does he paint the bush gently, or does he, as with most of his life, sort of approach it bull in a china shop?
I'm a very gentle spotlighter, James. Scan carefully and thoroughly. We haven't found anything yet, everyone, but it's too soon to panic, as I always say. I'm sure we are going to find something interesting soon to show you. Yeah, I thought I saw a snake in the tree there. It was just a branch that was a little bit bent. It's quite an art to try and drive and spotlight at the same time. It's very tricky. I do find it difficult at times, and one of the reasons is I've been very spoilt in the past, and those of you who have watched before, I've spoken about my friend Judas on a regular basis, and Judas was a tracker that I used to work with, and we spent 5 years together, working together, and you can imagine the relationship that we had. We were very, very good friends, and Judas has been tracking for 30 years. So you can imagine his knowledge on the bush, and not learnt from a book, purely witnessing so much animal behavior. And he would sit next to me in the evenings. He would jump into the vehicle and he would sit with the spotlight and he'd just shine, but he would pick up on so much at night. He'd find snakes and he'd find scorpions and he'd find chameleons and little genets and civets. It was wonderful to work with him because he wouldn't miss much. He just knew. He had a sixth sense almost on where to look. Rishi, it's not dangerous to drive in the dark. We do many nighttime safaris, and we call them night drives, and we do it for a short period of time while we just maybe an hour after sunset. And the reason for that is we're looking for some nocturnal wildlife, anything that might be active around this time of night. But it's not dangerous. We are very careful. There's a giraffe off to my left. I don't want to shine the light on it. Can you see there? Beautiful big giraffe. So Rishi, it's not dangerous, and we are still very careful, but it's not dangerous at all. As long as you kind of know where you're going, it's okay. So you don't get lost. But I do think it helps to be experienced when you are driving around the bush, not just at night, but during the day especially. And if you are new to it, I wouldn't suggest it, because occasionally animals might pop out, and if you get a fright or don't know how to react, then you could find yourself in a bit of hot water. But the guides and that work in these game reserves are all quite well qualified, and they generally know what to do in situations. If maybe you bump into an elephant or something along the road at night, just how to avoid any situation. You know what? Sorry, Brian, I'm going to take this road, and there's that little road that goes through the drainage line. And I think maybe we'll have some luck down there with something interesting. Let's see. We spoke about it before. I think a lot of the reptiles in that aren't quite active just yet because it's still very dry. We do need a bit more rain. So that's possibly why they aren't out and about just yet. And also, the other thing is there are not many insects, and a lot of these animals like the chameleon, for one, and scorpions, they all feed on insects. We have seen some scorpions around the DRC actually, which is where we stay. So often we find ourselves sitting with our feet on the chairs rather than just leaving them on the floor, because every now and then there's a scorpion which walks past. You do have to look out for them. Okay. Margaret asked if I'm ever afraid of an animal coming after me, and Margaret, I think it would be unfair to say that that I'm not scared. I wouldn't say scared, that I'm not cautious. I am very cautious all the time, because I think if you become blasé, you can find yourself in some serious trouble. So I'm cautious, but I wouldn't say I'm scared. And I think the thing is, as long as you've got a respect and understanding for the animals, you should generally be okay. Brian, I thought I saw something there, but I may be mistaken. No, I think it's my imagination. It is indeed my imagination. So Margaret, no, I wouldn't say I'm scared, but I am careful and respectful of animals. And I think at night, the only thing I really wouldn't like to bump into is probably an elephant or buffalo, because you can't see them. So, and I'm actually referring to if we're walking around. On the vehicle, we really are quite safe. So, just if I was walking through the bush, and I have walked through the bush at night on one or two occasions. It's not very wise, because you obviously can't see. We're pretty useless out here. We don't have the eyesight or hearing that these animals have. And they see us or smell us or hear us way before we see them. So we do have to be careful if you are walking around at night. But I have done it once or twice. So there's a big race to see who can find the first chameleon of the season. Nothing on my side just yet. Let's head back to James, old boy, and see what he has.
That's two of them, everybody. Two of those jokes I told you about. The old joke and the small joke. Soon we will have the bald joke. Now, we I'm afraid have failed to find the chameleon so far. We're going to Buffelshoek Dam to see if there isn't something that has pitched up there. At the moment, not a great deal going on. Many impala with their eyes shining. Byron says that calling me old boy wasn't a joke, it was a term of endearment. Piffle to that, I say. It's quite a good word, that, don't you think, David? Piffle. Piffle, it means nonsense. Piffle. Curious one, you would like 30 seconds of the Jamie Patterson spotlight technique. At this stage of the game, I'll try anything. There we are. Jamie Patterson has the most powerful shoulders in the Sabi sand. She is able to hold her spotlight like this for the whole drive. How that is, given that she has the narrowest shoulders in the Sabi sand, I'm not sure, but surely she does manage it. Because I'm not sure that I could do this for much more than 30 seconds. I'm already getting a deep burn in my shoulder, David. Oh, I wanted to swap hands. There we are. Does she swap hands? She just holds the one up. Must come from her days as a ballerina. There we go. I think that must be almost 30 seconds. It hasn't been any more effective than my technique. There must be something here. Come on. Janet. Aardvark. Everybody, while we're driving through here, finding not much at all, I would like you to say the term aardvark. On the count of 3, everyone at home is going to say aardvark. And you will feel the immense sense of satisfaction it gives you. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, aardvark. Once more. 1, 2, 3, aardvark. You see, I told you it would make you feel amazing. Oh, an owl. I got a huge fright, everybody. It's flown away, obviously. Do you see it? Oh. It was an enormous spotted eagle owl, everyone, that I'm afraid I didn't spot soon enough. Sorry, David, did I? I'm afraid I threw everything all over the place, everyone. Don't worry, David will fix it. Serves him right for trying to eat without me. Okay, we'll go back towards Buffelshoek Dam. We're not far from there now. Let's see if anything's turned up there. Those lions, Herbert didn't find even one track this afternoon. It is completely bizarre. The other reason for being in this area is we might be lucky enough to find one of the other leopards that we see. There is a zebra running away. We won't shine on them. If you are a new viewer and wondering why we're not shining on the impala and the zebra and that sort of thing, Byron may well have explained it, but it's because we don't want to blind them, and they are diurnal. So we will shine on nocturnal animals, not diurnal ones. Dodie, you're in Canada and you say, are Karula's cubs still alive? Dodie, they're absolutely alive. Tomorrow is their 9th month birthday. They're doing very well indeed. We spent 3 hours with them yesterday. We had a wonderful time with them. Unfortunately, their kill was stolen by hyenas in the night. So they went back south. Karula killed something else in Little Gowrie this morning, and she took the cubs back to feed on them. They're absolutely fine, Dodie. They're doing very, very well indeed. But that is to be expected with a mother like the great queen. Now, come on. There must be something at the waterhole. Hello, Marianne in Arkansas. You want to know if we know the whereabouts of Cinderlei, the male leopard? And I'm afraid the answer is negative. We do not know. His collar was taken off, which is excellent. So he's on his own. And yeah, it's wonderful. He's gone off and he's doing fine. He's made 4 or 5 very large kills that we know of, probably a lot more, while he still had his collar on, and so he's off on his own, making his merry way in the world. I've no doubt he will come back every so often back here, but a bit like Quarantine and Gunyuma, once they reached round about his age, they started to wander further and further away from home. Kunyuma's never seen here anymore. He's down on the river between Londolozi and Mala Mala. Quarantine, of course, is set up or trying to set himself up actually in his brother's territory around Cheetah Plains. Now, I did see a bush baby. I saw its eyes, David. It was jumping. Unfortunately, it has jumped away. Anyway, so it goes with the general luck of the afternoon. Never mind. Shadow is the leopard that I'm worried about, everyone. I think she's, I don't know where she is. I haven't heard or seen hide nor hair of her. We know that the Ingrid Dam female was pushing from the south into her territory. We know that Karula is spending a huge amount of time in what was Shadow's territory. And so I don't know what that poor leopard, tragic leopard she is. I don't know what's happening with her. Right, we've arrived at Buffelshoek Dam, everybody. Great excitement. Edge of your seat stuff. Everybody's biting their nails to see what we might see here. David, just take a deep breath and don't get a fright when the great plethora of wildlife assails our eyes. Are you ready? Oh. 2 Egyptian geese. Fascinating. That's all. 2 magical Egyptian geese standing on the water. That's quite an impressive trick, really. Didn't know they could do that. Did you, David? Look at them standing on the water. They're feeding on algae. And I must just tell you, before we leave them, well, there are 2 reasons they're in the water. One, of course, they're feeding. The other is probably because it's quite a good place to hide if you're not perching. They do perch, or they don't perch, but they do live in trees quite often. But I think it's quite a good place to stay away from potential predators, like a leopard, which isn't here. But also that Egyptian geese, you will read in every single ornithological text, eat algae, and basically they're herbivorous. Well, the Egyptian geese here, those 2 in particular, they love fish. And it's read, you will read that they don't eat any kind of fish. But in fact, these ones do. We've seen them do it, and that is very interesting, but not as interesting as the fact that Byron has managed to find a small primate, not me.
And everyone, I've managed to find a bush baby, but it's jumping around very, very quickly. I'm trying to see if I can get it for you and we can show you. Just hang on. It's quite tricky to see these little creatures, especially at night with the camera. Let me just have a look. There were 1 or 2 jumping around. You know, Brian, I still see an eye reflection every now and then there. So hang on, let me just see. There we go. Yeah. There, you can see the eye, there we go. It's around there. Alright, let's see. I wonder if James has found one. I can still see that one, but James may have found one.
We have got one there. Can you see it, Davy? No, it's gone behind there. Oh, it's gone. Sorry, everyone. I did see it. David even saw it. And now it's gone. Let's keep trying, David. Let us not lose hope. I do feel a little spit of rain on my chin. Oh, dear. Let's just keep going along the road here. That was a nice shot of the stars you took there, David. Well done. It was beautiful. Yeah. Unfortunately, there aren't any stars, of course. There's just a cloud. Right, Byron, I think, has got a bush baby or an update, one of the 2.
No bush baby, it moved off, but I think we're in a good area to find them, so let's see. They are so fast and so agile when they're jumping through the trees. It's incredible. All right. See what we can find around here. Silver cluster leaf grove, almost. You can see just all these trees around us are silver cluster leaves. There's some impala off to my right, so I don't want to shine the light on them. So I'm checking these trees very carefully for any bush baby activity. Or perhaps something else in the trees, you never know. Wonder if it's going to rain. Brian says he felt a drop earlier. Oh, I can see, yeah, I have now also felt a drop, Brian. Let's see. So it's predicted to rain at 7 o'clock, and as we know, the weathermen are always very, very on time and always completely accurate. We'll see. Maybe later. It would be lovely if it did rain tonight. Surprised I haven't seen many owls. Last time I was here, so in June, I managed to find about 3 or 4 different giant eagle owls, and I have not heard a single one since I have been back this trip. I wonder if it hasn't got to do with the drought, perhaps. It being a bit drier, maybe they've moved into areas where there's a bit more water, a bit more activity for food. It's a very light little drizzle, but obviously don't want the camera to get wet. Do you need a hand there, Brian? Are you okay? Okay, I'm just going to try put on our cover quickly, everyone. There's our camera cover. Just covers in the front, please. I think I'll put that one here. Is it this little one that you want? Will that one be okay for now? Yeah. Okay, so we're just quickly putting on our cover, everyone. Just mainly for the camera, that's the most important part. Goodbye. Don't worry, this will be very, very quick. Hi. Something flew into my face earlier, and it was a little beetle. I don't know where it's gone now. I don't know where it is. Right there. We won't be too long, everyone. Just a quick adjustment. There we go. That should be all right. Is that okay, bro?
Yeah.
Okay. Luckily, we don't have too much more time out here, so hopefully it doesn't start raining too hard. We were caught in the rain this morning. It drizzled, not too hard, but enough to make us wet. And then it stopped. Then it cleared up, but it's been cloudy all day, so it's been threatening, but just no serious rain. So hopefully we get some proper rain this evening after game drive, not now. I'm looking very, very carefully to see if I can't find any little sign of a creature this evening. But alas, I have nothing just yet. Let's head back to James and see if he has an update.
We found a wolf spider, everybody, and then we got off the car and tried to set up a shot where we could show it to you, and it ran away. Anyway, we will now attempt to find a chameleon. But regardless of what we find, I am overjoyed with the sense of coolth that my skin feels. There's the odd spittle of rain coming out of the sky. The temperature is perfect. And I'm looking forward to a night where I will actually be able to sleep in a relative dryness. Wouldn't that be nice, David? Yes. Not just yet, of course. We have a few more minutes left of drive. There's something crawling on my leg. I don't know what it is. We'll worry about that later. Hopefully it's not a deathly scorpion. Hello, tube jar. This is a very unusual name, tube jar. Now there is another spider. Tube jar, I will answer your question. That is a really good spider. Davey, can you see that? In the middle of the spotlight. There, look at that. How cool is that? It's not a wolf spider. That's one of the baboon spiders. I think it's out hunting. It'll have a burrow somewhere nearby. You can see its enormous pedipalps. Those are those things in the front. And its eyes, that's what I saw. I saw its eyes shining. And on the ends of those pedipalps will be the fangs, which it will use to envenomate the hapless thing it catches tonight. It'll be beetles and that sort of thing that the spider is after. How wonderful is that? That's much more impressive than the first one I saw. So for any of you who are sort of afraid of tarantulas and that sort of thing, this is the African equivalent of a tarantula. But they are pretty harmless to people. There are one or two species, I think probably the nocturnal ones like this, that can give you a little bit of a nip. Now, Dave, just flick the camera. If you tilt up slightly, you may see a little bit more. A little bit more. There. Back in. There's a grasshopper there moving. Now, that grasshopper, were it to be bitten by the spider, it would probably die a fairly slow death, but it would be wrapped in silk. So although that spider is a hunting spider, in so much as it doesn't make a web. Oh, that one's gone. Let's go back to the spider. What it will sit, it absolutely has silk. There we go. Look. How cool is that? It's absolutely got silk spinnerets that it will use to wrap up whatever it's bitten. You know what? It's spotted the... Oh, it's on a headlong course for the grasshopper. The grasshopper is behind the little piece of bush there. Come on, spider. We're going to see a kill, everybody. After this evening of searching for predators all the time, finally we found one, and it's on the hunt. Spider kill live. I think it's got real legs, Dave. Spider kill live. It is well, look, it's not very high action right now, but this is a stalking spider. I'm sure it's picking up the motion of the grasshopper. Can you see both, Dave?
Can do.
Come on, do something now. I think a spider is probably infinitely patient. Right, the grasshopper is slowly breaking cover by mistake. Looks to be about to hop, unfortunately. Come on. Spider, you're not going to eat if you lie there like that. I think... Oh, he's hopped away. Oh, the spider's seen him hop away. And I'm afraid not going to eat that particular grasshopper. Tough luck, Mr. Spider. We'll leave him there as we head for home. How cool was that? Ooh, what isn't cool is that the car is not starting. Oh dear, David, that's a little distressing. Right, while I try and start the car, let's head to Byron. We're okay.
It's wonderful that James got to see that baboon spider. That is really interesting. They are beautiful, beautiful spiders. Let's see. We haven't had any luck just yet with anything else, other than a few raindrops. perhaps James and I will have to practice our night drives again. Trying to find little creatures for you. Saw those bush babies, but they were so quick. They just disappeared. Yeah. Sometimes I think your eyes play tricks on you. I think it's just a leaf, but I'm rather going to double check just to make sure. Yeah, it is indeed a leaf. Will you look at that? Wonder what happened to that Nkuhuma pride. They seem to have disappeared today. And I think they've possibly gone into this drainage line not far from us. Just to our right. And I think they've probably just had their full of buffalo. If you think they've fed almost 2 days on buffalo. So it's a lot of buffalo to get through, but who knows? They may return to that other carcass at some point during the course of the evening or tomorrow. Laura, my favorite animal is a honey badger. Honey badger and elephant. I love them, absolutely love them. But I've not seen a honey badger in I think 3 or 4 years for some reason. They just keep eluding me, unfortunately. I would love to see honey badger again, but that's my favorite animal. I think purely because they're just so tenacious. They're incredible creatures. They're not afraid of anything, and they really are. I think they've just got such character, and that's why I love them so much. So honey badger and then elephant. I just really enjoy elephant. They're so peaceful, and I do think that they understand and pick up on our behavior and our feelings, actually, if I can say that. I do think so. There is a part of me which thinks they can pick up on our attitude towards them. I think they're incredibly intelligent animals. There's a lot of impala around here at the moment. And and I think that's why I really enjoy the elephant, and I love spending time with them. It's interesting to see how all the impala have moved out into the clearings for this evening, and especially with this wind, it's easier for them to look out and listen for predators in the open as opposed to in the thickets. So all the impala have moved out into the clearings for safety. Anyway, it doesn't look like we've had any further luck. Everybody, thank you very much for this afternoon. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and perhaps we have some rain later. Thank you to Brian and the thumb. The thumb out. There we go. And we shall see you tomorrow again. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And James is going to end off the show and say goodbye to you. Goodbye and good night.
Well, not just yet, everybody. I'm going to be with you for the next 3.5 minutes or so. There's a dragonfly. I'm not going to ask you to track that one, David. Yes. There's a little bit of precipitation coming out of the sky. And of course, soon we will have the great... Oh, my goodness, Byron drove straight past it. There it is, David. Chameleon. Awesome. Byron is on this road, everybody. He drove straight past it. Bad luck for him. I suspect what he was doing is turning around and talking to you. But he did not see the first chameleon of the season. Poor old bee-dog. There it is. Flap-necked chameleon. Thank you so much, David. Thank you very much. We shall name it James, says Kirsten. Well, I think that's a very fine idea. And notice how already it has turned a duller olive green colour because it knows it's been spotted. Good. Right, let us drive onto quarantine clearing, see what else Byron's driven past. What a stroke of luck. Hate to think how many I drove past today. Byron will be tearing his hair out now, of course, because Kirsten will have told him that I've spotted the chameleon. Apparently he didn't react because his heart is too broken. Poor little fellow. Well, you know, David, he's still a young man. He has much time left. He's not old and wizened like me. We'll just drive onto the middle of the clearings, and what you will see is probably, as I just shine the light like that, is just the flashing of eyes. Can you see the flashing of eyes? No, we wouldn't see it because we're not behind the light. Anyway, the flashing of eyes is just hundreds of impala come onto the clearings. It's going to be a blustery, difficult night for them. On account of the fact that it is very moonless. Right.
Yeah, thanks.
Just have a quick look over the edge here, and then we'll bid you a fond farewell for the evening. No spotlighting technique, bar the very lucky flash onto that chameleon, has proved successful today. Anyway, there it is. And I'm glad you're all celebrating the first chameleon, of course, an astounding achievement on our part, David, wouldn't you say? Yes, definitely worth an extra helping of sausages or whatever it is we're having for supper this evening. I doubt it'll be sausages. David, why are you stomping on the floor? They're insecta attacking you. Poor David is being attacked by insecta. All right, everyone, that is going to be it from us tonight, yes. Okay, a big thank you to David. Thank you, David, for your efforts. Yes. Thank you to Byron, of course, and Brian on the other vehicle. I said their names correctly. And to K. Mac Smith in the final control, along with Louise Pavid. Mostly, of course, to all of you, without which this would be completely impossible. We'll see you in the morning at 5 o'clock. Bye-bye.